sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth. If you're new, welcome. Today I'm making a really simple project. I'm calling it a grandma patchwork bag. Lots of older fabrics, just squares sewn together, and then I quilted it like a quilt and turned it into a bag. Let's get started. Here is that cute little bag that I'm calling Grandma's Patchwork Bag, and most of the pieces for this bag came in a kit from my friend Doris in my sewing room here, and all of the squares were pre-cut. I changed some things in the pattern, and I will have a pattern available in my Etsy shop as well as a few kits for a limited time to make this bag yourself. For my bag today, I am sewing 3.5 inch squares together in rows of 5. After getting all of my rows together, I took them over to my pressing station, my ironing board, and I'm going to be pressing all the seams in one direction. And then as I piece the rows, I will alternate the direction of those seams so that they will nest together really well. I won't worry too much about which row goes where at this point. Since this is a scrappy project, I'm not too worried about where those squares will line up. Here they are, all laid out on my sewing table, ready to be pieced together into one, what I would call small quilt that will soon be a patchwork bag. After getting all my squares together, I laid it down on a piece of batting, and I also added a piece of lining to the back. And I often use a spray adhesive to put my quilt sandwich together. Today I'm using some safety pins. When everything was basted with those pins, I took my little quilt and I'm going to give myself a little bit bigger stitch length on my sewing machine, and I'll be stitching diagonally both ways through all of the squares. Once my little quilt was quilted, I took my big ruler and a rotary blade, and I'm going to cut off the excess batting and backing for my little bag. The bag is quilted, so I'll fold it in half, and I'm going to sew on both sides of the bag, leaving an opening on the top, and the seam on the side will need to be bigger than 1/4 inch. I have a lot of layers there, so I put a seam in that was closer to 1/2 inch here on my bag. For the bottom of my bag, I would like it to be sort of flat, so I'm going to pull open the sides and make that little triangle shape, and I will sew straight across to make a gusset for my bag on both sides. After turning my bag right side out, I'm going to add the binding on the top with a strip that's 1 3/4 inches wide, and I'm going to begin sewing. After I fold the end over, I give it a little triangle there at the end so that when I finish up, I'll be able to hide the raw edges in on my binding. So at the end, I just made sure that the end of my binding goes over that fold so that when I tuck everything into the inside, all the raw edges will be inside, and I'm going to pin around and then do a blind stitch all the way around on the inside of my binding. The last step is the handles, and I wanted to add the handles after the binding and everything was done. Sometimes you'll make a bag and the ends will tuck in, but since this has a binding, I decided to add some little, what I'm going to call pockets, to the ends of my handles. So I took some 2.5 inch squares and I folded them right sides together, and I'm going to sew on both sides of that square. After I folded, I'm going to leave an opening and turn it right side out, and then I will press those raw edges in, and I'll have a little pocket for the end of my handles. I made 4 of these little pockets, and now I'm going to put them on the end of my handle, and I'm going to attach these pockets with the handle to my little patchwork bag. After pinning them in place, all I needed to do was take it to my sewing machine and top stitch all the way around that rectangle, and then I will also put an X in the center of the rectangle to give it a little more strength. My bag is now ready to go, and I really like the way it turned out. I'll have a PDF pattern in my Etsy shop, but I will also have a couple of kits if you would like to have the fabric squares already cut for you. I'll have that available for a limited time. Thank you for joining me today. It's always nice to sew with you, and I'll see you next time.